Welcome to this week's Today's Health and Wellness Podcast. This is Brett. The Today's Health and Wellness Podcast is a joint effort of the Central Ohio Health and Wellness Magazine and Today's Health. In each week's podcast, we spotlight health and wellness stories you'll find in the magazine, on Today's Health web pages, on our social media, as well as extras you'll only hear in the weekly podcasts. Thanks for subscribing and hitting the play button. Let's get started right after this.
This is Michele Wilson, host of the Business Inspires podcast from the Tri-Village Chamber Partnership. To run a successful business, you need resources, valuable connections, and community recognition. In each episode of the Business Inspires podcast, we talk with small business community leaders who will inspire you to create the business you are envisioning. Find out more about the Business Inspires podcast at chamberpartnership.org/podcast.
'Tis the season for homemade cookies, mistletoe, and snuggling by a warm fire. Not everyone enjoys the cold weather and snow, but you can't ignore the added family bonding time that results from staying indoors. However, you may have a concern to deal with. How can you provide consistent loving care to your elderly parent when you want to enjoy the holiday season? Respite family care may be your solution. This type of care is designed to relieve caregivers from the demands of caregiving for a few hours or even a few days. I recently spoke with Michele Glauser from Capital Healthcare Network about this. She mentioned you should never feel guilty for needing a break. You can only be a good caregiver if you care for yourself first. You'll benefit in the following 4 different ways. You're going to reduce holiday-related stress, strengthen family relationships and avoid conflict. You're going to prevent serious complications from illness for yourself, and it's good practice for the future. Here's more from my interview with Michele. Yes, the holidays are special, but let's admit it, they can be very stressful, especially if you are the primary caregiver for a loved one who needs constant attention. On top of all the usual long list of chores, it's not easy to find time for holiday extras such as shopping, baking, and volunteering. Family caregivers often have full-time jobs, teenagers, spouses, and others who need lots of attention too. And as a result, during the holidays, caregivers may abandon some of their usual personal routines, such as exercise or socializing. With me is Michele Glauser. She's VP of Sales and Marketing at Capital Healthcare Network. Welcome back to the podcast.
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Let's bring the listener up to speed on Capital Healthcare Network. You offer a continuum of healthcare for older adults. What does that include?
Absolutely. So Capital Healthcare Network, we have 8 skilled nursing facilities in Ohio, as well as assisted living, independent home health care, and hospice services in some of the areas. Here locally, we've got Scioto Community that offers skilled nursing care, assisted living, and independent options. We also have a home health network here.
Wanted to bring you back to the podcast to talk specifically about respite care. How would you define respite care?
Sure. Well, respite care typically refers to a short-term stay at a senior community, like Scioto Community. It can include memory care, skilled care, or assisted living. Respite care is a great option for seniors that are being cared for at home and need some day-to-day supportive services, but still desire some social stimulation, engagement, activities, as well as allowing the caregiver to have a break and have some rest.
It looks to me like respite care can really be focused on the family caregiver as well, especially during the holiday seasons, as we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. And family caregivers need to remember that they need a break too. It can become very stressful for caring for someone full time. Holiday time is a great time to try it out, especially if you need to travel. A respite stay is great for seniors when families who travel out of town. It can also be a good option for those considering senior living and want to try it out before making a long-term commitment. Short-term stays usually allow residents to enjoy housekeeping services, community activities, dining, medicine management, and all other amenities. In addition, you also have the benefit of physical care. And the short-term residents often make friendships there as well that really can enrich their lives. When people are being cared for at home, a lot of times the social aspect is lacking. As well as, people need to remember that caregiving is very stressful and they do need a break. They need a rest.
All right. We talked about this before, and this could be a great time to talk about it right now. Again, is that transition of getting that thought in the person you're taking care of in their mind that they're going to go here for a short term.
Right.
There's some setting up to do. isn't there, in
Absolutely.
regards to just kind of
Yeah.
prepping that patient, that you're the person you're taking care of. I shouldn't really say patient, but
Right.
eh, how would you advise caregivers to go about that, of kind of laying it out weeks, maybe months ahead of
Yeah,
time,
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
it's going to happen?
Yeah, and honesty usually is the best
Okay.
practice.
All right.
Talk with the family member that you're taking care of. Let them know that you need a break as well. But also spin it as it's going to be great socially. You'll get to be around people your own age. You'll get to do some social activities, and put it in a way of, let's try it out, because it is a short-term stay.
Right.
It can be anywhere from a day to 3 days to sometimes longer. And you can even set it up to perhaps do it 2 days a month every month, so that you get a break. But I would just really be honest and talk with the person that you're taking care of.
Let's cover some areas that respite care can help a family caregiver during the holidays. It's kind of those reasonings of like, yeah,
Sure.
I should do this for myself because of this. One, it can reduce holiday-related stress.
Absolutely. Yeah. The holidays are filled with stress, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
Hosting holiday functions and having to go out of town, the financial strain of buying gifts. And of course, there's always the strained family relationships that holidays bring with
Yeah,
it.
right.
So, respite care can help caregivers not only cope with that, but, also really get some rest and flourish during the holidays.
Right. There's also that aspect of, you can strengthen that family relationship and avoid conflict as well.
Absolutely.
We've talked about this too, that caregivers can actually have a ton of guilt on themselves if they don't do enough. This could be an opportunity to at least have a break from it and know that there's some family support.
Definitely. And a lot of caregivers, even though they're doing everything they can, they're giving 120%, they still feel like they're not doing enough.
Right.
And as everybody knows, caregivers, just like you said, feel a mix of feelings, from guilt to not doing enough or needing a break and feeling guilty because they need a break. There's always, issues with family relations, like I said before, especially during the holidays. So, some people even may feel some resentment or frustration from lack of other family members not
Right.
helping out.
Right.
So it's a great time to discuss those things as
Right.
well.
Well, and that family member that is in respite care is actually away from that situation, that maybe conversations can happen a bit more freely.
Absolutely.
About how is mom, dad doing?
Right.
How am I doing?
Right.
Can we coordinate some different help at the beginning of the year possibly? It could offer some of those opportunities as well.
Definitely. And especially if you're dealing with family members that don't live in the area, they're not there 100% of time. So they don't see what goes on, and you really have to have a discussion with them and let them know what's really happening.
There's also this part of self-care. And I think, a respite stay can help the caregiver prevent some serious illness.
Absolutely,
Just wearing yourself down. I mean, you think of mono and all these things, because it's a stressful time. Some respite care could also offer some self-care.
Definitely. And being in this industry, I see it all the time. 90% of the time, the caregiver is getting ill before the actual person that they're taking care of, because there's so much stress. They're not resting. They're not eating well. They're not taking care of themselves because they're taking care of their family member. And you have to remember to take care of yourself. And this respite stay can definitely help with that. You can kind of, see the situation for what it is, take a break, and get healthy.
Do you think that's a point of conversation that the caregiver and the person they're taking care of could talk about in regards to reasoning about the respite care? It's like, I need some time because I'm tired.
Yeah.
And this would help me if you're here for a couple of days, just to take some naps and such like that.
Absolutely. And they'll understand that.
Yeah.
And they'll want you to rest. They'll want you to be okay.
Yeah.
So definitely.
This is good practice for the future, like we talked about, of kind of kicking the tires, as it were, to going into this community or that community and understanding how things work there.
Absolutely. And, many caregivers, like we said, simply just don't take enough time out for themselves. With everything that goes on with the holidays, it definitely magnifies the situation. So try to shake off the guilt and think about what your loved one would really want for you. They'd want you to be happy, healthy, healthy and rested.
Any other tips you can think of?
We covered a lot of good things, but just for the most part, remember that you need to take care of yourself as well, because you're not going to do your family member any help if you're not taking care of yourself. Right. And investigate the different options out there.
Thank you, as always, for being back on the podcast. Can't wait until we talk again.
Great. Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thanks again for listening to this week's Today's Health and Wellness podcast, brought to you by Central Ohio Health and Wellness Magazine and Today's Health. If you have a health and wellness segment you would like us to cover, send us an email. Our contact information is in the show notes.
And if you'd like more information about sponsoring our podcast, like Ashley just mentioned, our contact information is in the podcast notes. We look forward to hearing from you.
Circle270media.com.